Hey YouTube, Gear Runner here. Today we're going to do a video comparing the Glock 19 and the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 compact. I know there's been a lot of videos on this, and I've watched a lot of videos on these two. There are a lot of similarities between these two guns, and this is just going to be my take on it. The 2.0 compact I haven't had very long. I may have put 200 or 300 rounds through this pistol. I don't carry it. I did contact Smith & Wesson, tell them about a couple of my concerns, which I'll let you know as we go through it. And they were going to send me some replacement parts so I could sand on and stuff like that, so I didn't have to ruin the part that come with the gun. But when they sent me the parts, it was for a 2.0 instead of the 2.0 compact. I'm sure they'll make that right. I just haven't had time with work and just haven't found the time really to call them back and tell them, that they made an error. So let's get on with the video. So here is my Glock 19 Gen 5. This is my everyday carry gun. I carry this everywhere I go. It's always around me. It is unloaded, as you can see here. These weapons have all been checked. I'll show you the M&P 2.0, so as we're handling it, you can see it is cleared also. They are essentially the same firearm for all practicality. They're the same size and the same length and almost the same height. The length of these guns, the Glock is 7.28 inches. And the Smith & Wesson is 7.25 inches. The width of these two, the Glock is 1.34 inches, and the Smith & Wesson is 1.30 inches. The height of the Glock is 5.04 inches, and the Smith & Wesson is 5.0 inches. Barrel length is 4.02 in the Glock, and 4 inches in the Smith & Wesson. This is where something that I don't quite understand. The Glock rates their sight radius on their website as 6.02 inches. And Smith & Wesson rates theirs at 5.75 inches. But now if you'll look at this, the Smith & Wesson has a longer sight radius. Now maybe my front sight is a little longer or a little deeper because I do have different optics, or not optics, but different sights on my Glock. But even if it wasn't, it still looks like the Smith & Wesson would have a longer sight radius to me. My calipers actually wouldn't go as long as the sight radius, so I couldn't measure it to get an exact number. So we're just going by the book on this, and Smith & Wesson says theirs is just a little bit shorter. Unloaded weight, they're both right at 24 ounces. Glock states 23.99 and Smith & Wesson states 24, but we're going to say they're both 24. Trigger pull on the Glock is 5.5 pounds and Smith & Wesson is 5 pounds. And they both have a standard capacity of 15 plus 1. So here's a few features about the Glock that I really like. I really like on the Gen 5 that they took off the finger grooves. I didn't think the finger grooves were that big a deal. I've owned Gen 3s and Gen 4s and even a Gen 2, which didn't have finger grooves, but it was a 10 millimeter, so it's a lot fatter grip. But I didn't think the finger grooves were that big a deal until I got this particular firearm, and the finger grooves were gone, and the way they flared this mag well, it just really seems to lock into your hand really nicely. I got really lucky with this gun. I actually found it at Bud's gun shop, and a guy came in the day before and bought it and had them put on night sights, put 15 rounds through it, and traded it in. And I walked in right behind him after he traded in and bought it used for a huge discount with the night sights. Now, I did change the night sights. They had an Ameriglow set on it, which wasn't a bad set, but the rear sight didn't have tritium in it, just the front, and I didn't like that. So I went with the Spartan Sights. If you can see the sights there. This is actually my favorite set of sights I've ever owned. I really like how it has the square notch in the back and the square post in the front with the bright orange dot. I have some Trigicon HDs and some True Glow TFX, and those are okay, but for some odd reason, these sights just really work. I like how low they are to the gun. The Trijicons seem to set a lot higher, and that's one thing I don't like about those. I like my sights set really close to the bore. So I really, really like these sights a lot. And that orange dot pops better to me than the Trijicon does. So that's an overview. Also, the finish on this gun is very, very slick. They put a new finish on the Gen 5, and as you all know, they've kind of milled off the end here to make it, you know, I think it looks better than squared off. It is for aesthetic purposes. That probably reduces a little bit of weight, and it helps reholster the gun, I'm sure, a little bit. But to me, it's mainly aesthetic. And I do think it looks a lot nicer with that milled end right here. So I'm glad they did that. I do think this is an improvement. The front cutout right here, people really don't like that, some people. I don't mind it. I actually did that to one of my Zev customs so I could get the magazine out, so I was used to that already. So that's not a big deal to me. The Gen 5 does have the ambidextrous slide lock, and it locks with the groove right here in the slide on either side is how that one locks in, and it actually locks with the slide lock. So that's how the slide lock actually locks down. I do think the trigger is a little better in these guns than the previous guns. They're a little smoother. Here is the reset, which is a little bit long and compared to some of my other guns. My Zev is a lot shorter, but of course it's a custom. So for a stock gun, I think this is really nice. I actually do carry this gun. I don't carry my Zev. I carry this. I carry it just in the configuration you see with the Enforce light. The Enforce light's been a good light. I've had zero issues with mine. I know some other people have had some issues, but with my Enforce, I've had zero issues at all. So that's just a slight overview of the Gen 5. Next, we'll move on to the Smith & Wesson. I bought this gun because I really wanted something to compare with the Glock. You know, nothing really was the same size on the market. Comparatively, the Glock 19 is just the perfect size for me and for tons of other people for concealed carry. And until this gun come out, nothing was basically identical that I wanted to carry anyway. I'm sure there was other stuff that was really close, but for my standards, this was the nearest thing to it that you could get. They did put these serrations on the front right here on both sides. I do press check my guns like this, and that might add just a little bit of traction, but really that's almost useless. I like these scallops a little better than the Glock. They seem to grip your hand a little better than the Glock does. The sights on this is just the stock 3-dot sight, just white dot. Nothing really special about those other than they are metal compared to the Glock's plastic. But a lot of guns come with metal 3-dot sights now, so that's not a huge deal. They've got these little cutouts right here, which is actually where your serial number is on the other side, and I'm not sure why they did that. I guess it's for aesthetic purposes, but it looks all right. It's not a big deal, and it doesn't weaken the frame at all or anything like that, so it's not a huge deal breaker. The problem with this gun that I see, it feels really good in your hand. I mean, it locks in like crazy. But this stippling, I mean, you can hear that. It is crazy. And I carried this gun after I shot it a few rounds just to see how this would actually affect my skin. It is sandpaper. I'm not gonna lie. This is rough. If you carry this more than probably 30 minutes an hour, you'd probably be bleeding if it was against your bare skin. I did contact Smith & Wesson about this, told them my concerns and told them that I really couldn't carry this gun because I don't wear an undershirt most of the time, so it would be up against my body. So until I could get another one of these back straps, there's no way I could carry this firearm. And they don't sell these back straps right now. But the guy was extremely nice that I spoke to at Smith & Wesson, and he said that he would send me another one of these back straps so I could sand it down and carry this gun more to see how well I liked it in a concealed carry application. When he sent me this piece, it was a Smith & Wesson 2.0 and not the 2.0 compact piece. Now, like I said at the start of the video, I've just not had a chance to contact them back and tell them they made a mistake, but I'm sure they'll remedy that and send me the right piece. You know, they didn't charge me for it, so he said he wanted me to carry it. He wanted me to make sure I liked the gun, and he wanted a Smith & Wesson on my side. So he didn't charge me for this piece, so I can't complain too much because it was free to me, even though it was the wrong piece. But I will be contacting them back to see if I can actually get the correct piece. Now, this one also has the ambidextrous slide stop. The difference is it only stops on one side. There's not another side over here that actually grabs the slide, which isn't a big deal. I've never had a malfunction with that. And it doesn't actually catch on the lever like the Glock does. There's a little tab right here. I don't know if you can see it, but it will actually move down, and it sits right there. And that goes up as you pull the weapon back. And you can see right here that it comes up and gets into that little groove. Now, as far as taking these down, this one takes down just like all the other Smith & Wessons. You just pull this little tab down here. Then there's actually a little yellow tab in here that you can also push down if you don't want to pull the trigger. I know my weapon's clear, so I'm not extremely worried about it because I've been used to doing it to Glocks forever, but you can just pull the trigger, slide comes right off. Your guide rod comes out, your barrel comes out. The weapon is filled stripped, you're ready to go. Glock, just like always, pull the trigger, pull these two tabs on the side. When you pull the slide back just a little bit, slides right off. Guide rod comes out, barrel comes out. Pretty much the same way to take apart, except for the lever doesn't have the pull down tabs on Smith & Wesson. It just has a lever. Now, I will say this, the guide rod is polymer on the Glock. I've shot Glocks for years and years and years, and I've never had a problem with a polymer guide rod. I have replaced some for spring weakness, but I've never broke a guide rod. I've heard of people breaking them, but I've never seen that. I have shot some competition, so I've been around some shooters that shoot a lot, and I've never seen one broke personally. The Smith & Wesson, if you want a stainless steel guide rod, it actually comes with one. You can buy stainless steel guide rods for Glocks. I don't use those in mine. I've never seen the need since I've never broke one, but the Smith & Wesson actually does come with a stainless steel guide rod if that makes you feel better. So to put these back together, you just drop the barrel back in, stick the guide rod back in, pop it down in the little groove, slide it back on, pop your lever forward, you're good to go. Glock, same way, barrel in, guide rod in, slide it back on the frame, you're good to go. So which one of these two guns do I like better? Even if I had the grip sanded on this, I do have to say in the hand, the Smith & Wesson really does feel better in the hand. The ergonomics feel a little better. The grip angle is a little better. Even though I've been shooting Glocks for years, the grip angle of the Smith & Wesson is a little better. But for carry purposes, I really trust my Glocks. I always have. I've put probably 800 to 1,000 rounds through this gun. Zero malfunctions, no problems. I mean, I've never had a malfunction out of the Smith & Wesson either, but I trust the Smith & Wesson. I don't have any issues with it, but I've carried Glocks for a very, very, very long time, and I really trust Glock, and I always will until something catastrophic happens, which I don't see that happening in a Glock 9mm. I do like the way it locks in my hand, and once you get used to the grip angle on a Glock, you can acquire your sights very quickly. I have an RMR on my Zev, and at close distance, I still think I can acquire my iron sights quicker than an RMR, which is one reason I carry this gun over my Zev. So the magazines, you know, this is polymer, the Glock one with steel reinforcement, and I'm carrying a Federal HST ammo in it. I think it's a 147 grain. I'd have to look. I can't remember what grain I've got in it. Have the same round in the Smith & Wesson, but the magazine is metal. If you're looking to take base plates off, your Smith & Wesson is a lot easier to remove base plates. I will say that Glock did redesign their base plates, as most people know. They put this little lip on it so that when you got right here, you can actually grab it and strip it out. So you know that you have a place to get a hold of if you have a malfunction. I was noticing earlier with a full magazine in the Smith & Wesson, it's dropping free right now. But earlier, I had a couple that did not drop free. Seems to be working now. But before I started the video, I had 2 or 3 of them that wouldn't drop free. I've never had a problem with a Glock mag really not dropping free. They drop free every time you hit the mag release button. So I'm not telling you which gun to buy because I think they'll both work perfect for what you would want to do with it, whether it's self-defense, home defense, just going to the range and shooting. They'll both treat you right, and you'll probably never have an issue out of either one of them. It's just if you're going to carry it, I would be prepared to do something with this. Either sand it or put some kind of Talon grip on it or something. Unless you wear an undershirt, this right here is going to be very rough. And even with an undershirt, it's probably still going to grab your shirt, and it might impede your draw stroke just a little bit if your shirt got hung on it. I could see how it could grab and slow you down just a hair. When seconds count, you know that may be an issue. It may not. I just know that before I'd carry this, I would definitely do something about this grip. But there again, if you take it to the range or use it for home defense, this would be a great gun. I've heard people talk about this hurts their hand when they shoot it because it's so rough. It did not hurt my hand at all to shoot this gun. I had no issues at all. I mean, it locks in very tight. It's actually one of the best guns I've ever held that will lock into your hand. It just doesn't move. But that's due in part of the stippling on it. My Zev has stippling, and I did have to sand this side right here a little bit to make it where I could carry it also. But you can't go wrong with either one of these. The M-Force light is a great little light. I chose this light over the Surefire because mainly probably cost. I mean, this light was probably around $100, and the Surefire is like $265 for an XC1. And the beam pattern on this is better in my opinion, and it just looks brighter, and I want the most lumens I can get. Streamlight is coming out with a TLR 7, which sits flush with the end of a Glock 19. I am trying to get my hands on one of those to do a review. They're not releasing that light until SHOT Show, so it may be a little difficult for me to get one very soon, but I did talk to the people at Streamlight, and they told me to get with a dealer and try to get it ordered as quick as I could. So I'm trying to find a dealer to get one of those in so I can do a review on it as quick as I can get it out. But we'll see if I can get one of those or not and get that review done. So this has been my review of these two pistols. Basically, like I said, they're almost identical in size and weight, trigger pull, and everything. Really, it comes down, I guess, in personal preference about grip angle and maybe even brand. I mean, there's some people that just hate Glocks. I mean, I don't know why, but maybe I'm a Glock fanboy. But I've owned several different firearms, and I've never had a malfunction with a Glock. Other than my Zev did have a few when I was breaking it in because the tolerances are a little tighter. But overall, I've never had an issue with a stock Glock. But some people just don't like how they look, and they just don't like them in general. And maybe they want a more American-made gun. I know Glock's made in Smyrna, Georgia now, but their main office is in Austria. And, you know, Smith & Wesson is made in Springfield. So, you know, maybe they just want an all-American-made gun. And I know Jaeger even talked about if they ever made this gun that he would carry it because it's all an American-made gun. And he actually does carry this. I've met James Jaeger, and he had this gun on him, so he actually does carry this. But for me, I'm still carrying the Glock 19, and even if I sand that, I'd almost say I probably always will, at least some form of a Glock, whether it be a 43 or a 19 or a 26. I'll probably always carry some form of a Glock, depending on what I'm wearing that day. Hope you like the vid. It's You know, it's been done 100 times probably, but this is my take on it. I don't know if I said anything different than anybody else did. Oh, I forgot to do the reset on the Smith & Wesson. It's probably a little shorter than the Glock is. The trigger actually feels a little better than the Glock, actually, if I go back and just fill them together. The Glock is more crisp. When I hold them like that, the Glock is actually more crisp. Resets right there. Reset feels a little quicker on my M&P than it does the Glock, but the Glock trigger is actually more crisp. It's like when you hit that wall, it's like glass breaking. So I guess as far as trigger pull is concerned, I like the Glock better. The reset is shorter on the M&P, if that makes a difference to anybody. You can change the back straps on the M&P by twisting this little lever here and pulling this out, and the back straps come off. I will say that this lever is larger than the full-size ones, and it's a little easier to get out than the full-size one is. My full-size one is a lot tighter. Glock also has back straps that you put on, and the little pin back here in the back holds those on. I don't run a back strap on my Glock. You have to on the M&P, because if you take it off, well, I can show you. If you take it off, as most of you probably already know, you get this. So you kind of have to run a back strap. I guess you don't have to, but it would look pretty bad if you didn't, because the way that's skeletonized. But that's just my 2 cents. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.